Hello, it's Moira here. I wanted to speak today about emotions and our limitations in coping with them, especially from a human design perspective. So in human design, there are the mechanics. And I'm going to put the mechanics to the side for the minute and say I agree with them, because that's not really what I'm here to talk about. When I read Ra, I read the mechanics, and I also read the description of his experience of the mechanics, and the two things are not the same. This seems to me incredibly important. So when he talks about his reaction to emotions, he's not talking about a universal truth. And yet we take it as such. Or at least I have seen it taken as such. And I want to highlight it because the truth that has been taken as such is that the unemotional people amplify, fine, but that it is harder for them. There is a judgment and there is a comparison in there. And when we as a community and when we as people accept that judgment, we limit our ability for compassion. We limit our ability for compassion for the other. And this emotional world is the place where we connect. It is the place of desire, need, passion. It is the place of sexuality. It is the place of relationships in a great many ways. And when we set off with a belief from human design that one side is to blame and the other is not, we create a wall. And that wall is no good for our communication. It is no good for our relationships. And that's not what we want. It's not what you want and it's not what I want. What we really want is relationships with great communication. So there is this belief that it's harder for unemotional people because they amplify. But we can't say that. We can't know that. We're only assuming that because we can't know, because none of us can be both. None of us can be emotional and unemotional at the same time. None of us can be riding the wave and made to ride the wave and not. So we cannot know that. We just can't. What we can do is bring understanding to both sides of this. So I feel it's probably best to illustrate this story. And I'm in this story. So I had a friend who I had been very, very, very good friends with, and over time I became excluded. Took me a while to understand that things would happen and I wouldn't be shared, it wouldn't be shared with me, and that I wasn't included. And time went on and I was very busy and I didn't fully comprehend what was going on, and the instances built up and the instances built up. And the person is unemotional and they must have just hoped and prayed that I was accepting what they were doing. Now, we know that excluding somebody, there are words for it in Britain where I am, which is called sending somebody to Coventry, cutting them out, just slowly excluding them, is mean. It's incredibly hurtful. And we also know, now that we have human design to understand, that the unemotional person had no choice. They had no choice. They were completely helpless in what they were doing. They would have had to speak the truth. And they might not even truly have known their truth in order to speak it. And it might have been, you as an emotional person are making me uncomfortable. But if you don't have language for that, how do you say it? You don't. So you retreat. You retreat and you pray and you hope that there will be no consequences to the retreat. And you're in self-protection, self-preservation mode. And in that mode, we don't fully comprehend what we are doing because we're so busy protecting ourselves. So we don't know what we're putting out. We only know that we're guarding ourselves. So there is no blame for the unemotional person. But for me, over time, there was an attrition of being forgotten, not being included. Until one incident happened when I did understand. I did understand. Suddenly it slapped me in the face, and it took a long time before it slapped me in the face, and I got it. And that was hard. It was really hard. It was hard all the time. I was slowly being inched out. It was confusing. And it was hard when I understood. And it was hard when I processed, because there was a lot of hurt. Now, I am not asking for sympathy for this, because I am incredibly lucky. I am so lucky, because I understand my own process and I understand their process. And I understand that they could do no different. And that when I said to them, "Is this been going on? This is like..." And they said, "I'm sorry." And of course they didn't mean, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I've done," is not what they meant. They meant, "I'm sorry that I got caught out. I'm sorry that you're upset and I'm feeling that you're upset." What I want to do, and I hope that you hear it, is truly illustrate how much pain there is in everyday life. Everyday life. Small, consistent interactions that create this scenario where people don't see each other, where people cannot see each other. So there is no judgment, there is no blame, and we cannot say one person owns the grief, the hurt. What we can say is that we are going to bring awareness to it. What we can say is that if you are undefined, you amplify, and your nervous system is fried over the years of your life, and it is terrifying to speak your truth. And what we can say to the emotional person is to try and hold that energy inside them. Retreat. Sit with the energy. Feel it all the way through. Don't speak. Don't do anything, even if it takes years, until you understand. And one of you has the capacity to reach out to the other. Every single one of us that reaches out with compassion, because we are not shuttered in by our own nervous system. We are changing the world. And if you need help seeing your patterns, holding them, if there is a situation you want to talk through, because this work is important, book a session with me. One session can be incredibly insightful. Take one of my courses, hang out with me. big love to you all.